नमस्कार, स्वागत है आप सभी का संसद टीवी की इस खास पेशकश में। मैं हूं प्रीति सिंह और मेरे साथ है मेरी सहयोगी टीना झा। दुनिया भर की निगाहें इस वक्त भारत के चंद्रयान-3 अभियान पर टिकी हुई हैं, जिसकी उल्टी गिनती शुरू हो चुकी है। यानी भारत का मिशन मून चंद्रयान-3 धीरे धीरे सफलतापूर्वक अपने मंजिल के करीब पहुंच चुका है। चंद्रयान-3 अब से कुछ देर बाद शाम 6:04 पर चांद के साउथ पोल पर सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग के साथ ही इतिहास रचने के लिए तैयार है। और ऐसा होने पर भारत चंद्रमा के दक्षिणी ध्रुव यानी साउथ पोल पर पहुंचने वाला दुनिया का पहला देश बन जाएगा। ये लैंडिंग सफल होने पर भारत इस उपलब्धि को हासिल करने वाला विश्व का चौथा देश होगा, जिसमें अमेरिका, रूस और चीन पहले से शामिल हैं। यानी भारत इतिहास बनाने की दहलीज पर खड़ा हुआ है। चंद्रयान-3 के चांद पर सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग का देश ही नहीं बल्कि विदेशों में भी बेसब्री से इंतजार किया जा रहा है। खासतौर से उन देशों की नजर भारत के इस मिशन पर लगी है जो भविष्य में चांद पर अपने मिशन भेजने की तैयारी कर रहे हैं।
Absolutely, Preeti, you're right. It's a very, very significant day for India and all Indians. Hello and welcome, viewers, to this special coverage on Sansad TV of the landing of India's third lunar mission, Chandrayan-3, on the moon. In just a few minutes from now, at 6:04 p.m., as my colleague rightly pointed out, Chandrayan-3's Vikram lander will attempt a touchdown on the south polar region of the moon, making India the first country to reach the uncharted territory of Earth's only natural satellite. The Indian Space Research Agency is going to live telecast the operations in just a short while from now. The overall process is expected to take about 30 minutes. We will be getting you live visuals of the landing process on Sansad TV. And besides, we also have a panel of eminent scientists to help us explain the landing procedure, its challenges, and what happens once Vikram successfully lands on the moon, something that we are all hopeful of. So it gives me immense pleasure today to welcome on this special program Mr. Vishwanath N., former Group Director, Spacecraft Mechanism Group, UR Rao Satellite Center, ISRO. He joins us from Bengaluru. And with him is Mr. Prakash Rao, Outstanding Scientist and Director, Space Infrastructure Program Office, reporting to Chairman ISRO. Thank you to both my guests for joining me on this special broadcast on Sansad TV. Mr. Rao, to you first. It's a very, very important day for all of us Indians. 4 years since our last attempt to touch down on the moon, we are now attempting to touch down on the south pole of the moon once again. 1.4 billion Indians hopefully waiting with bated breath. How hopeful are the scientists? How excited are you as a scientist and also as someone who's been associated with the project so closely?
ओके सबसे पहले मुझे सब संसद टीवी के वीक्षकों के लिए मेरा नमस्कार एंड थैंक यू टीना फॉर दैट इंक्वायरी. आई रियली फील as excited as any Indian citizen or anybody from the space community across the world. Though we were involved in all the build-up of this craft in its initial stages, subsequently I moved to headquarters, but always the whole journey will always be fresh in my mind. And whatever changes that the project team has done and which has been reviewed and approved by the higher management of ISRO, all those changes, I am sure there is a very good confidence, I should say a very, very high confidence that the mission will be successful. And like all the citizens in India, we have been seeing, actually I think I should compliment media in this context because they have transmitted very very fine details with respect to the program, even the technical details now. Even आम आदमी को भी सबको पता है कि यहाँ क्या चल रहा है. So I'm also waiting with lot of excitement and hope that this mission will be successful, cheering up every Indian. It brings a smile into the face of every Indian. I think after the cricket cup, or now I should say, seeing the excitement since morning, even the excitement is now more than the cricket World Cup, where India is supposed to hit the last ball 6 winning. At that stage also, that kind of excitement is there in the whole of country. And I join my fellow citizens to witness this great event. And thank you, Sansad TV, for giving me an opportunity.
बिल्कुल एक्साइटमेंट टीना बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ा हुआ है और धड़कने भी कहीं ना कहीं जैसे जैसे समय पास आ रहा है वो 6:04 का वक्त और ज़्यादा तेज़ होती चली जा रही है. विश्वनाथ एन सर, हम थोड़ा सा समझना चाहेंगे, आप हमें बताइए, जो अब करीब करीब 1 घंटे से भी कम का वक्त है लैंडिंग को लेकर, कितना क्रूशियल ये टाइम है और क्या फेजेस होंगे जो आगे हम देखें, वो किस किस फेज में लैंडिंग होगी, कितना क्रूशियल ये वक्त होगा, थोड़ा हमें समझाइए.
Mr. Vishwanath N, sir, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Tina. My namaskar to all the Sansad TV viewers. It is a special day, and it is everybody is excited to see the successful launch. We pray and hope for the successful landing of the Vikram lander and also the successful functioning of the Pragyan rover on the moon surface. So this is a historic event. It is going on now. The lander, Vikram lander is in 25 and 135 kilometers orbit. From this orbit, as all you know, already media has given a lot of technical details. It is available everywhere and almost everyone knows it. And it will come down with a rough braking of to around 7.4 kilometers. After 7.4 kilometers, again the altitude hold will be there. There will not be engine firing. For this rough braking, all the 4 engines will be fired, and the altitude hold phase will be there. And altitude hold phase means there is no engine firing. It will just descend to 6.8 kilometers from 7.4 kilometers to 6.8. So after coming to 6.8 kilometers, fine braking phase will start. At that time, only 2 engines will be fired. The 2 will be redundant. Only if required, they will be used. Otherwise, only 2 will be fired. Then it will be brought down to 800 meters altitude. That is, it is at 800 meters height from the surface of the moon. At that time, there will be a hovering, and also spacecraft, the lander will be tilted towards the moon. That is, the legs are made towards the moon surface. And then after hovering, again, the vertical descent will be there. It will be descended from 800 meters to just 150 meters.
Right.
At that time, the camera will be able to take good pictures. So it will scan the local area where it is supposed to land. So at that landing site, when it takes the pictures, comparing the pictures already loaded with the lander, that is, we have taken the fine resolution pictures from the Chandrayan-2 orbiter, what is there on
Prakash
that
Rauji,
pictures. It will compare the local terrain, and it will decide after hovering whether to go down at that location or to move to some other location, maybe 100, 200 meters
I would
away.
like to understand from you more about the rover and the kind of instruments that it is carrying, the kind of experiments that it will be performing in a short while from now. But Mr.
Yeah.
Vishwanath, the fact that soft landing is something that we attempted with Chandrayaan-2, there were lessons that we learnt. This time there is excitement, there is hope, there is also a lot of confidence from the scientific community, which gives us Indians a lot of hope that this time we will see success. Help us and our viewers understand the kind of changes that have been made to Vikram the lander this time, in terms of its landing, in terms of reduction of speed, and in terms of the focus in the last minute. Now that we are just a few minutes away from the crucial landing process, what are the changes that have been made as compared to Chandrayaan-2?
Yeah, basically, in the control system, the improvements have been made. And the engine system, for example, earlier Chandrayaan carried 5 engines. Now, for better balancing, only 4 engines are sufficient. Only 4 engines are provided. New sensors have been added. And also, the error correction capability of the lander has been increased. Earlier, the lander correction capability, error correction capability was limited. Maybe due to that, the lander could not cope up with the errors that accumulated during the landing process, and we lost the lander in Chandrayaan-2. Now, with additional sensors and correction capability and improved software, we are confident that this time the soft landing will occur.
Let's cross our fingers, because we are just minutes away from that landing procedure, that crucial landing procedure that our scientists have been talking about.
बिल्कुल टीना, जैसे विश्वनाथ एन सर ने समझाया भी कि इस वक्त जो एरर करेक्शन कैपेबिलिटी पहले थी, उसमें जो कमियां रही हैं उसे सुधारा गया है, सॉफ्टवेयर का अपडेशन हुआ है और एडिशनल करेक्शन कैपेबिलिटी अब हमारे पास है, कहीं ना कहीं वो कैपेसिटी अब बढ़ाई गई है। प्रकाश राव सर, थोड़ा सा आप समझाइए। कहा जा रहा है कि बैकअप प्लान एक नहीं बल्कि दो दो तैयार है, बैकअप प्लान भी तैयार है हमारे पास, तो इसे लेकर कितनी मजबूत स्थिति में है?
क्या जैसा विश्वनाथ सर ने बोला है कि बहुत कुछ किया है एक्चुअली, नॉट ओनली दोस चेंजेस, इवन द लैंडिंग सेट एरिया इटसेल्फ। इससे पहले तो वो 0.5 किलोमीटर्स बाई 0.5 किलोमीटर था। नाउ द एरिया इज इंक्रीज्ड अप टू 4 बाई 2.4 kilometers. Okay, and there is a propellant margin. Okay, and there are number of sensors. Earlier the redundancy was limited. Actually, whenever we face a problem in ISRO, we just don't see what has gone wrong and correct only to that extent. We take that as an opportunity to study every system's performance. Even if the systems have performed, is there any scope for improvement? क्या और कुछ करवा जा सकता है क्या? इसी को ध्यान में रखते हुए पिछले 4 साल में बहुत कुछ बदलाव किया गया। और बट कोई भी चेंज किया तो उसको एरोस्पेस में एक है, लास्ट मिनट अनटेस्टेड इंप्रूवमेंट्स लीड टू 100% फेल्यूर रेट बोल के। सो जो भी किया है उसको बहुत अच्छी तरह से टेस्ट करने पड़ेगा। सो द नंबर ऑफ टेस्ट टू एनहांस द रोबस्टनेस वॉट एवर हैज बीन डन, देर आर नंबर ऑफ टेस्ट, बोथ हार्डवेयर टेस्टिंग, सॉफ्टवेयर टेस्टिंग एंड द सिमुलेशंस, वो सब करके ये कॉन्फिडेंस आ गया। And as well as you are telling whatever backup plans in terms of say velocity measurement, it will not be just one sensor which will be measuring the velocity. And suppose velocity sensor fails in the last minute, how do we go? You may be having another image based like that. The algorithms also, not just hardware redundancy, even technologically there will be a redundancy. And like chairman himself has explained earlier, even in case of some engine failure also, we will be able to, with some increased time it may take or whatever it is. And in case we are not able to land at the originally designed site, तो इस बार एक hazard avoidance phase भी introduce किया है, and one emergency landing feature that is also involved now. So in case there is an issue with respect to landing at the place where we wanted, you can land wherever we are there after ensuring that it is safe to land there. So that is a salvage guidance. That is also is another part which is provided. And a very important development has taken place in this, which was not there in Chandrayan-2. That was a laser Doppler velocity meter. Actually, our management has come to conclusion that you must have this instrument for having though it has nothing to do with the previous failure, but still they wanted this instrument. At that time when we wanted to import it, it was prohibitively costly. I think maybe some 60 to 100 crores at that range. And all of us were telling 3 to 4 years time for delivery. So our own laboratory for electro-optical systems, they have taken up this development. And in a very short time, a sensor which was capable to measure all the velocity in all the 3 directions, that was also laser-based instrument. This was developed. This is how we work. And जो भी प्रॉब्लम आएगी उसके लिए कुछ ना कुछ बैकअप प्लान तो रेडी ही रहेगा, दूसरा आ गई तो तीसरा। सो दैट्स हाउ वी हैव प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर all the possibilities which we can think of.
You're right. And Vikram this time has sturdier legs as compared to the Chandrayan-2. And we're being told that it can withstand velocities up to 10.8 kilometers per hour, something which is different and something which gives high chances of success this time. Mr. Vishwanath, and coming back to you, you worked in the area of spacecraft mechanisms, design, assembly and testing for several years. That's the area in which you specialize in. Now, mechanisms is very critical. It's a very critical system of any spacecraft. So tell us about the mechanisms that were involved in Chandrayan-3, all of which have to ultimately work well and in coordination for the entire mission to be successful.
Yeah, coming to that, earlier we were in the beginning, for example, about 35 years back, ISRO, when any design was taking place, everybody was afraid of putting any mechanisms. But over the years, we have successfully demonstrated there was no failure in any of the mechanisms. And now we are, our satellites are full of mechanisms. For example, this mission has got more than 25 mechanisms, maybe 28 or so mechanisms are there. They have to work in coordination and they have to work successfully for the mission. For the to come to the mechanisms, the lander leg for the Vikram lander is a main system which will absorb the landing loads and reduce the shock that is coming onto the electronics that is there on the Vikram lander. So 4 legs are having shock absorbing mechanisms. For example, if you say car also will have the shock absorbing mechanism, but it will revert back, that is, it will jump back. But here, that jumping back we cannot allow. So it is a crushing type of uh, absorbing mechanism. It will just absorb and it will not bounce back the lander. Otherwise, if it bounce back, lander may get tilted. So after the landing leg mechanism, the rover, what is there? To bring down the rover, there are a number of mechanisms. And after the rover itself is full of mechanisms. So without mechanisms, the rover mobility system and everything cannot happen. So coming to the details, if you have time, I can go what happens after the landing happens. A lander of the landing takes place, and afterwards how we take out the rover.
Because once the Vikram lander lands and the rover rolls out on the surface of the moon, there will be a lot of mechanisms that will be involved. And since you are somebody who has an expertise in the mechanism area, if you could help us and our viewers understand in a very simple language what the entire procedure is going to be, what exactly is the rover supposed to do once it rolls out, and also the fact that the kind of instruments that it is carrying, the kind of in situ experiments that it will conduct.
Yeah, first of all, when the lander lands, there will be dust coming out because of the engine thrust firing for the landing purpose. So the dust has to settle for any operation to happen. So we will wait for 2 hours after a successful landing of the lander. Then only we will initiate any operations on the rover. So after the settling of the dust, the lander camera, there is a camera, it will look towards the ramp. You might have seen already the pictures of the lander and rover. So there will be a ramp. So wherever the ramp has to touch down the moon surface, on that side of the area, the lander camera will take a picture and say, we will analyze on ground that whether there is any obstacle at that location. So our area ditch is there. So once we clear that it is a flat area, then we will go for opening of the land rover, what is there inside. So rover is inside the lander, but we cannot simply keep the lander there. It has to be firmly fixed so that it can take the launch load and also the landing loads. So what we do is, the lander itself is clamped with 3 bolts. See, rover itself is clamped with 3 bolts on the panel of the ramps. Ramp itself is made out of 2-fold panels. See, the outer panel and the inner panel is there. So the outer panel is first deployed by cutting 2 bolts, hold down bolts, which will be clamping that panel. So once that bolt, the panel is deployed, and then the inner panel gets deployed. So onto the inner panel also, we have to cut another 2 bolts by mechanisms. So that is already shape memory actuated mechanisms are there. So they will cut the bolt. Once the 2 bolts are cut, the inner panel will open. The lander Pragyan is attached to the inner panel. So it will come out along with the inner panel. Once it opens out, the ramp is already touching the ground at the other end, and the top end is connected to the lander. So at that point, we have to power the lander. So powering is done through the Vikram lander, rover we have to power, because till now it will be off condition. Then it will be powered on through Vikram lander.
Right.
And also we will establish the communication link between the rover and the lander. After that,
sorry to
it will
interrupt
be
you,
commanded
sir.
to
As we
see-
speak, we are getting you live visuals also from the ISRO headquarters in Bengaluru.
Today we
We're just minutes away from the crucial landing procedure. ISRO has begun to telecast the landing procedure as well, which will begin in just a short while from now. As per the ISRO chairman, the entire procedure is going to last about 30 minutes. So it begins around 5:47, 5:48, and the landing is expected around 6:04 p.m. Important step in Chandrayan-3's mission, because this is the final stage, and once the landing happens successfully, as Mr. Vishwanath N was explaining, the rover will wait for about 2 hours, the lander will open up, the rover will roll down through the ramp. And an interesting thing about the rover is that this time it's going to leave its imprint on the surface of the moon. So the ISRO symbol, also the symbol of the Ashoka, so the fact that India's imprint will be there on the lunar soil if the landing happens successfully and the rover rolls out from the lander. So we are hopeful, we are confident. I'm sure 1.4 billion Indians and Indians living worldwide, for the scientific community worldwide, it's going to be a significant feat, because if India successfully lands, it's going to only become the first country to land on the south pole of the moon. And this leads me to the next question to Mr. Prakash Rao. The first question, sir, is why is the landing procedure so complex? What are the challenges that are involved? We are confident so far Vikram has had a smooth sail, but looking at what happened earlier, looking at the kind of failures that other space agencies have also had when it comes to landing procedure, what are the kind of challenges that we face during the landing procedure? Why is it so complex? Also, tell us about the significance of the south pole of the moon, something that we are aspiring to make our mark on.
Okay, Tina, I think before I answer your question, I would like to tell that you have told about leaving the imprints of Ashoka emblem on the moon surface. Because moon doesn't have an atmosphere, it will be lasting forever, okay? Unless something else goes over that, that impression will, really the imprints will be there on the moon. And back to your question, why the landing missions are so difficult? As it is known, the moon is at an average of 384,400 kilometers distance. So anything you want to do at such a distance away from the so first, even to reach there itself is an enormous challenge. That's what you have seen, that over the last few weeks, there were so many number of operations which have brought us closer to this landing phase. And among them also, the translunar injection itself is a very critical phase. If you give little more velocity than what is required, it will become a flyby. Instead of becoming a landing mission, it will just graze through the moon and it will be going out. And if you are a little lesser in your performance, because the fuel and all are very much optimized, in this case we have built margins, but otherwise if there is a gross error in that, the landing itself may, the probe itself may crash. So these are all the challenges with respect to reaching the orbit. And once you have seen also the lander, the major distinct characteristic of moon is there is no atmosphere on the moon. So we cannot be using parachutes like what we see, say Mars or future Venus missions. All those things are on Earth itself. When astronauts return, the descent is with the help of parachutes, which will be definitely helping. But here, because you cannot use, you have to depend totally on engine power. So engine power, when you are depending to put a craft of say 1500 kg with engine power, when you want to oppose the gravity of the moon and keep reducing the velocity slowly, the margin of error becomes very, very thin. So the way you manipulate the engines, the way you extract the best out of the engines by throttling them, that becomes a big challenge. Okay, so that is another aspect which is there. Then coming to environment, the lunar environment itself is very harsh, extreme temperatures, lunar dust has to be taken care. So that is another ways. And testing for lunar environment. So fly as you test as you fly is what they say. So to test exactly like that is going to be a tremendous challenge, because how do you simulate the kinds of velocities that we are talking about? So we actually ISRO used for sensor level testing, or even at the finished spacecraft level, exact thing can never be tested. We will be always doing it in modules, and for the test bed, you have to do some modifications and we have to test. So simulating that kind of environment The lunar helicopter tests were done. 37 to 40 sorties were done using helicopters to characterize the sensor systems. Then there is something called a hot test, where it will, from a crane, the whole lander is dropped along with the engines, not actual model, but similar with all the hardwares. So those things and all are going to be very, very challenging. And how do you say that this environment is exactly what it is going to be seeing? Then the question of landing leg design, as you yourself have pointed out, here the strength, and it has to be lightweight. If you make it heavier, then you are losing on the margins and the shock absorption, the velocities which they have to withstand, and the stability after landing. All these things will become very, very important. Then coming to again trade-off between fuel and payload. This is another aspect, because whenever you do an experiment, we want to get best possible outcome of that. But then between fuel and payload, we have to do trade-off. And sensors, they are the most critical part of the any landing mission. So as they say, South Pole, why it is difficult and all, because South Pole is having a lot of craters and all. So in the that kind of environment, all your sensors have to give the correct information.
Right.
It could be the velocity, or it could be actual visual images which you are trying to match and see. And the illumination is also going to be at an angle, sun angle, sun illumination will be. So the algorithms that have to go, and how to remove signal noise from the signal, that becomes another important challenge. And sensors and guidance and navigation. If you want to reach a place X, how do you reach there? For that, there are tremendous algorithms. Actually, there are number of approaches are possible. There will be lot of internal debates, including the academic community. So that reputed institutions, they will join. They have joined actually in finalizing and reviewing those algorithms, development of those algorithms. Then fault tolerant features. It is actually, it looks very simple to add redundancy, but how do you switch between those things and all? Sometimes a very unnecessary switching. Like for example, if you take recent Japanese Hakuto 1 R1, so there it was lost because a sensor information was wrong, and some fault tolerant feature has got triggered and it did not do the right job. So that is another thing. So those algorithms, and again error proof software design, verification and validation, and the mission itself, the planning, whatever you are seeing now visuals, the total planning, everything has to be done to the seconds, sometimes milliseconds kind of accuracy. So how you do, and not with, and one more also I would like to tell, human errors also play a very important role in anywhere. Israelis have lost their mission towards the end. In addition to many other reasons, some human error also was possible. So these are all the things, and the rover complexity is already Vishwanath has said. So it is not just one aspect which makes the landing mission difficult. It is combination of all these factors which makes it very, very interesting, challenging, and absorbing. So then, why South Pole, you have asked? It is because of region. It's a region of interest to the scientists, because occurrence of water ice on permanently shadowed. So that is there. The ice is there around the South Pole. So it will contain craters where sunlight directly doesn't enter. So that gives a lot of opportunity to traps that will be there, where the fossil records of hydrogen, water ice, and other volatiles. All this information is of tremendous interest to the actual scientists who are working on this. We are all technologists, but they will be able to really appreciate, and they want those information. So that is the reason why South Pole is targeted by all the countries. So this is, and it is suitable for setting up of further colonies also, future if you want, because exploration we want to do around South Pole area. All the countries want to do, because that is where you expect a lot of discoveries which are not known yet. Thank you.
बिल्कुल विश्वनाथ सर, क्योंकि अब बहुत जल्दी हम उस पड़ाव की ओर बढ़ रहे हैं, 6:04 का वक्त। लास्ट 15 मिनट्स को कहा गया था कि ये लास्ट 15 मिनट्स ऑफ टेरर, इस तरह की बात कही गई थी, और वो इसलिए है, जो मेरी समझ में है, इसलिए कहा गया क्योंकि लास्ट 15 मिनट्स में सब कुछ ऑटोमेटिक मोड पे होगा। इसरो के जो साइंटिस्ट हैं वो उसे खुद कंट्रोल नहीं कर पाएंगे, सब कुछ ऑटोमेटिक मोड में चला जाएगा। थोड़ा सा बताइए हमें कि कैसे काम होगा ऑटोमेटिक मोड में।
System and associated.
A short time, and because of the long distance, both we cannot control it by manual commanding. Everything, every aspect has to be taken care by automatic systems. That is, auto sequencing is there, auto detection, auto correction. Everything has to go auto. In this mode, if there is any error in any sensor, then there will be a big issue. It can, some error is there, then it will be a problem. So we have this time they have built in redundancies for the sensors also. It won't check only one sensor, it will check for the other sensor and take that into account also. That is why we are having better confidence this time. And the control of the system is very, very fine. That is, we need to control the speed to less than a meter per second accuracy, and all this has to happen with automatic sensors and automated system in a fast manner. That is why it becomes a terror of this around 17 minutes terror is there, wherein everything goes auto. If they, and we don't have any control. If anything goes wrong, we will lose the craft, that is lander. So this time we have built in enough redundancies, enough simulations have been done. You might be seeing earlier just visuals were there where there were tests, enough of number of tests were done, helicopter test, hovering test, lander leg drop test, all those kind of tests. With this, all these tests, we have ensured that we will be successful this time. Otherwise, the confidence level is very high because of all this testing. The testing is the most important thing. Then only we can unearth any small deficiencies or errors that is there in the system and then correct before launch. So enough of testing is done this time. We are confident that this terror phase will be over successfully and the lander will be landing. Soft landing will be happening successfully this time.
Mr. Vishwanath, another question, as we await the landing procedure, the fact that ISRO is waiting for the lander module to reach the designated point around 5:54 p.m., after which the procedure will begin, and in 30 minutes, the entire procedure will be over. And that's how at around 6:04 p.m., we will actually be able to land. But tell us about this automatic landing sequence command. Upon receiving this ALS command, what does the lander do? How do the engines then begin to function? Because as we were discussing, for powered descent, everything goes into that auto mode. So tell us about the sequence of events, something that ISRO has to be very mindful of.
Yeah, after separating the lander from the propulsion module, the lander engines that are there, 4 engines, they have been tested in deboosting phase. What is their characteristics, how much thrust, exact thrust they are producing. Based on that, the programs have been modified and suitable corrections have been already applied for example, the time of firing and the attitude correction, the gains in the thrusters, all those things have been fine-tuned, taking the input from the deboosting phase, whatever we did from higher altitude, we brought down to 25 to 135 kilometers orbit. During that phase, all these engines have been tried out, and using that parameter, all those parameters have been loaded in the automatic sequencer, and that will take care of the everything that goes on. So there is no manual intervention that is possible.
In less than 5 minutes from
And
now,
also-
the lander module will arrive at the designated point, following which the powered descent procedure will begin. Mr. Vishwanath, since we're talking about the challenges and the complexities involved in such missions, Mr. Prakash Rao did tell us about how challenging is it at various levels. So if we want to understand from you, from the perspective of design, when we aim at such complex missions, what are the challenges in terms of design? What are the things that you have to keep in mind so that, of course, we understand that it doesn't have to become too heavy. There are several mechanisms that need to be taken care of. But in terms of Chandrayan-2, Chandrayan-3, wherein we are itself acknowledging how difficult the landing procedure is, What are the challenges that you face in terms of design, or also keeping in mind the difficulties, the complexities of the landing procedure?
Yeah, there are three things. First of all, we have to think big, dream big. Then only we will take up this kind of projects. Why I am telling this? Because in the beginning, as we take up the project, it looks as if we will not be able to do this because there will be weight constraints, there will be budget constraints, there will be time constraints, and also the technology constraints. The required technology may not be available at that time of the starting of the project. So we need to carefully examine all those things, what is available, what need to be developed at that time. So one by one step, we will go ahead by forming different teams and developing the different technologies so that at the end, we will be able to successfully design the system. And also all the constraints will be put down. For example, weight, and the mass constraint is already there, and you cannot simply go and import some systems. Trust will be given to develop indigenously so that the cost will limited. So these are the things which make the system. So one by one, different teams will be split. For example, one team is supposed to develop the rover, the mobility system. The another team is supposed to develop the landing engines. For example, this lander required throttleable engines, which were not there earlier. All those technologies, and already Prakash Rao told some sensors what was there. Doppler sensor was not there. So that technology was developed like this. One by one, individually specialized teams will start developing each technology. And finally, we need to understand the requirements. And then based on the requirements, we will develop the required technology slowly. And then finally, we will integrate all of them to realize the required the spacecraft. Of course, the lot of the in any development, testing aspect is very, very important. Without adequate testing, we cannot reach the final goal because errors, there is no tolerance for error, any error in space systems. We cannot even make one error. Even one error will be fatal, the total mission will fail. So unless we test the system, simulating the environment, for example, for moon environment, we have to simulate the moon's gravity, not
In
the
fact,
Earth's gravity.
About,
So
testing,
that kind of simulations we have to do.
since you're
After
talking
doing
about
all these
testing, Mr. Vishwanath, let me take the opportunity to also understand from you about soil simulation. How was soil simulation from the moon done at ISRO? In fact, in short, if I may ask you, how was moon brought to Earth? How did ISRO study, which helped it to design this kind of a complex system?
Yeah, when we started this lander rover, we were supposed to, we would not have thought of soil technology because the rover has to move. It doesn't have a road or a paved out way or a flat surface like Earth. Anything is not there, and it is totally a new terrain. So for that terrain, what kind of soil is there? Actually, for moon soil, we don't call it soil because there is no organic matter. Regolith we call because there is no organic matter like what is there on Earth. So that kind of regolith we have to simulate. That simulation itself is a totally different area for us because we never went into soil mechanics. So we went into that new technology of soil mechanics and then started searching where we can how to simulate this moon simulant, how to get this moon simulant and how to make this so that, and also we should be able to test this our rover on this moon simulator. For example, if you take a rover, if the soil is very loose, it will not go further forward. It will go dig into that soil and get stuck there only. What we call is traction. Traction is very important for designing the rovers. So we need to adequately understand the soil characteristics and then design the rover wheels, and then torque wheel sizing has to be done. If the weight of the rover is more, the wheel will sink more into the soil and it may get digged into that and get stuck. If it is very light, traction will be less. So the soil characterization and testing in the characterized soil is very, very important. For that purpose, we were looking, maybe if someone has seen the moon footprint on the, for Apollo mission, just footprint, solid footprint is available. So it is not a hard soil. It is very powdery kind of soil, which consists of very micron level particles and some 1 mm, 1 centimeter, 5 centimeter particles of smaller quantity. 50% or more is made out of micron level particles only. It is more of a powdery kind of a soil. So that has to be simulated. See, early we also studied the literature. Finally found that we were able to get this kind of the data. See, this is also one thing I want to emphasize. Somewhere, some research done in some institute, how it will come handy in any design also is one example. For example, one professor in Periyar University, Tamil Nadu, had done some studies on the soil available at Sitampudi, Salem district. See, Anbalagan professor name. So he had done the characteristics and he has published a paper on the similarity of this rock soil with respect to moon soil. We got interested and contacted them and got them involved. So with this involvement, we also together we were able to get this soil manufactured within our country, get this soil from the Salem district, Tamil Nadu, and using that soil, tons and tons of soil was brought, and then the required soil characteristics were made, prepared, and for your information, the soil prepared was so good, and we together with NIT Tiruchirappalli, we could get the patent also, ISRO, NIT Technology,
Right, Mr.
and
Vishwanath, and we'll continue to
Periyar
discuss
University.
all of these
Combinedly,
aspects.
we
We'll
did
come back to you in just a moment. By the clock, it's 5:44, and as ISRO's website says, the lander module will now arrive at the designated point, following which the powered descent procedure will begin. 6:04 p.m. is the time when the Vikram lander is supposed to land on the surface of the moon. As you can see, live visuals on your screen, which are being telecast from the ISRO headquarters.
पावर डिसेंट की यह शुरुआत हम कह सकते हैं कि बहुत ही सटीक और सधी हुई है, जिसमें लैंडर अपने वेगमान को अनुमानित तरीके से घटा रहा है.
The altitude of the lander module will reduce from 7.4 kilometers to 6.8 kilometers. During the next phase, which is going to be the attitude hold phase. We can currently see that the altitude of the lander module is nearly 31 kilometers.
आरुषि, अभी हम इस ग्राउंड रेस को देखते हुए कह सकते हैं कि रफ ब्रेकिंग फेज की शुरुआत बहुत ही अच्छे तरीके से हुई है. आप ये देख सकती हैं कि जो भी प्रोजेक्टेड ग्राउंड रेस है उसी पे अपना लैंडर मॉड्यूल आगे चलते हुए बढ़ रहा है. अभी तक ये देखा जा सकता है कि लैंडर मॉड्यूल लगभग 370 किलोमीटर 36 दिशा में चल चुका है.
The mission operations team is analyzing the data. We can all see the seriousness and the concentration with which each and every parameter of the lander module is being analyzed. The performance so far seems to be nominal.
जी आरुषि, चूंकि ALS एक्टिवेट किया जा चुका है इसलिए ग्राउंड से कोई कमांडिंग नहीं की जा रही है. इस दौरान आपके स्क्रीन पे ये सारे डेटा इसरो के डीप स्पेस नेटवर्क से रियल टाइम में आ रहे हैं. इस मिशन में सेकेंड और थर्ड ऑर्डर गाइडेंस पॉलिनोमियल का प्रयोग हुआ है जो कि इनर्शियल थ्रस्ट और एंगल के हमेशा सुनिश्चित करेगा.
During the entire descent, there is no ground intervention as the ALS has taken charge. The preparation for today's event had started nearly 48 hours before, wherein various pre-selections and uplinking of parameters were done. We can see that the vertical velocity of the lander module has been brought down. It is continuously coming down. And the ALS had already been initiated 1 hour before the scheduled time of the power descent start. Following this, the throttleable engine electronics module, the TECM, was switched on and lander was oriented to the favorable attitude.
जी हाँ, आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर मॉड्यूल जिसकी शुरुआत में वेलोसिटी 1680 मीटर पर सेकंड थी, लगभग 1150 मीटर पर सेकंड हो चुकी है, जो कि एक बहुत ही मैजेस्टिक शुरुआत कही जा सकती है इस रफ ब्रेकिंग फेज के लिए। यहाँ पे मैं आपको ये भी बताते चलूं कि आप अपने स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि द लैंडर मॉड्यूल का आल्टीट्यूड धीरे धीरे अब कम होता हुआ दिख रहा है, और जो कि एक्सपेक्टेड भी है। अभी हम बात करें करंट आल्टीट्यूड की, तो जो कि 28.6 किलोमीटर के आसपास है।
आप स्क्रीन पर ये भी देख सकते हैं Chandrayan-3 lander imager display. The lander imager is continuously taking photographs of the moon's surface, and that is also being streamed here. Currently, the horizontal velocity has been brought down and the distance traveled is 574 kilometers. The current altitude is 27 kilometers as can be seen on the screen.
जी हाँ, करीब अपने आधे सफर को पूरा करते हुए इस रफ ब्रेकिंग फेज में लैंडर बहुत ही आगे की तरफ बढ़ते हुए अपनी ऊंचाई को घटा रहा है। अगर अब बात करें तो लैंडर की ऊंचाई चंद्रमा के सतह से लगभग 27 किलोमीटर से नीचे हो चुकी है, करीब 26.7 किलोमीटर के आसपास है।
The next phase after the rough braking phase is the attitude hold phase, which will be for a duration of nearly 10 seconds. The lander will be oriented such that both the altimeters will be looking exactly towards the moon's surface. At the end of this attitude hold phase, height measurement update to navigation system will be given from the laser and car band altimeters. Currently, we are in the middle of the rough braking phase.
जी हाँ, अगर हम ध्यान से देखें तो लगभग 8 मिनट की यात्रा के बाद लैंडर अपनी हॉरिजेंटल वेलोसिटी को लगातार कम करते हुए अपनी ऊंचाई, अभी की ऊंचाई के समय 24 किलोमीटर की ऊंचाई प्राप्त कर चुका है। 8 मिनट की यात्रा के बाद लैंडर अपनी हॉरिजेंटल वेलोसिटी को लगातार कम करते हुए अपनी ऊंचाई, अभी की ऊंचाई के समय 24 किलोमीटर की ऊंचाई प्राप्त कर चुका है। अब तक के आंकड़े को देखते हुए हम कह सकते हैं कि लैंडिंग पूरी तरह से नॉमिनल है। यहाँ पर हम देख सकते हैं कि हॉरिजेंटल वेलोसिटी लगातार कम होती हुई दिख रही है। The altitude of lander from ground is currently 22 kilometer, which is again going to be coming down, and that is expected.
For the viewers who have joined now, we are in the power descent phase, and we are in the rough braking phase, which is the first phase of the power descent. We have currently traveled a downrange of 697 kilometers, and the downrange that has to be traveled during this phase is 713.5 kilometers.
जी हाँ, अभी आप देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर की हॉरिजेंटल वेलोसिटी लगभग 720 मीटर प्रति सेकंड हो गई है। लगभग हम ये कह सकते हैं कि 900 मीटर प्रति सेकंड वेलोसिटी को कम किया जा चुका है। At the same time, we can see the altitude of the lander is just 17.8 kilometer from the moon surface, which is going to be around 7.4 at the end of the rough braking phase.
इस फेज के बाद हम जाएंगे टुवर्ड्स द एटीट्यूड होल्ड फेज, where we will be expecting sensor update from the laser and car band altimeters. We can see the visualization of the lander module moving towards the moon's surface. The current altitude is nearly 15.2 kilometers and the distance traveled is 754 kilometers. We can also see the image that the lander imager camera has been providing.
जी हाँ, इस रफ ब्रेकिंग फेज के दौरान 800 न्यूटन के चारों थ्रोटल इंजन अपने कार्य को पूरी तरह से अंजाम दे रहे हैं और लैंडर के हॉरिजॉन्टल वेलोसिटी को लगातार कम कर रहे हैं। अब तक लैंडर लगभग अपने 75 से 80% की यात्रा को पूरा कर चुका है।
After the rough braking and the attitude hold phase, we shall be having the fine braking phase, which will continue for nearly 3 minutes. The whole phase is being driven by the autonomous landing sequencer and there is no intervention from ground.
जी हाँ आरुषि, अभी आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकती हैं कि जो करंट आल्टीट्यूड है चंद्रमा के सतह से लगभग 10 किलोमीटर के आसपास है। जी हाँ, हम अपने जी हाँ, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी हम सभी का उत्साहवर्धन करने के लिए दक्षिणी अफ्रीका के जोहानसबर्ग से जुड़ गए हैं।
Yes, we are privileged to have with us Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, who has joined us from South Africa's Johannesburg to encourage us.
जी हाँ, आप ये देख सकते हैं एल्टीट्यूड होल्ड फेज भी बहुत ही आसानी से लैंडर फेज ने पार कर लिया है और अब फाइन ब्रेकिंग की शुरुआत हो चुकी है। अभी हम ये देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर की ऊंचाई लगभग 5.6 किलोमीटर है, जो कि इस फेज के उपरांत लगभग 800 मीटर हो जाएगी।
We can hear from the mission operations team that the sensors are performing nominally. And we are currently in the midst of the fine braking phase, which is going to continue for 3 minutes. And the altitude is going to be reduced to nearly 800 meters at the end of this phase.
जी हाँ, जैसा कि आरुषि जी ने बताया कि लगभग 3 मिनट के उपरांत लैंडर की हाइट लगभग 800 मीटर वर्टिकली होगी और यहाँ पे लैंडर की हॉरिजेंटल वेलोसिटी, वर्टिकल वेलोसिटी, इवन डाउन रेंज भी लगभग शून्य होगा।
We can see the visual of the lander module and we can see that the down range traveled is nearly 831 kilometers.
जी हाँ, आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर की ऊंचाई अब चंद्रमा के सतह से लगभग 3 किलोमीटर से कम हो चुकी है।
We are very close to the moon's surface, nearly 2.6 kilometers as we can see.
जी हाँ, अभी आप देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर की ऊंचाई लगभग 1 किलोमीटर के आसपास है।
We are nearing the final phase of the power descent, which is going to be the vertical descent phase or the local navigation phase.
जी हाँ, अब हम फाइन ब्रेकिंग वेव्स के एकदम करीब आ चुके हैं। हाँ, आप तालियों के गड़गड़ाहट से सुन सकते हैं कि हम लोगों ने तीसरे चरण को भी बहुत ही सफलतापूर्वक हासिल कर लिया है और अभी हम वर्टिकल डिसेंट फेज में आ चुके हैं, जिसकी शुरुआत भी बहुत ही अच्छे ढंग से हो चुकी है।
Lot of applause indicates that till now the performance has been nominal. We are in the vertical descent phase 1. The altitude is being brought down from 800 meters and we are nearing and approaching the lunar surface.
जी, आप अपने स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर का हाइट लगातार कम होता जा रहा है। इस समय हम लैंडिंग साइट के जस्ट ऊपर हैं और इस समय इसकी ऊंचाई लगभग 600 मीटर के आसपास है। इस फेज के दौरान लगभग 150 मीटर के ऊंचाई पे पहुंचने के बाद लैंडर अगेन लगभग 20 से 22 सेकंड के लिए हॉवरिंग करेगा।
We are above the landing site. The horizontal as well as the vertical velocity is now being constantly reduced. And the lander module has begun its descent towards the landing site.
जी हाँ, आप अपने स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं ये जो पथ निर्धारित किया गया है, लैंडर पूरी तरह से उसी को ही फॉलो कर रहा है। इस समय हम लगभग 200 मीटर की हाइट से भी कम आ चुके हैं। अब हम ये देख सकते हैं कि हम लगभग 150 मीटर की ऊंचाई पे हैं चंद्रमा के सतह से।
We are approaching the vertical descent phase 2, which will have the lander module hovering at nearly 150 meters above the lunar surface.
जी हाँ, आप इस तालियों के गड़गड़ाहट को सुन सकते हैं, जो कि सेकंड हैवरिक फेज के कंप्लीट होने के बाद इन सारे वैज्ञानिकों के द्वारा की जा रही है। जी हाँ, आप अगर फिर से ध्यान से देखें तो एल्टीट्यूड पुनः कम होता जा रहा है। अभी हम लोग लगभग 135 मीटर की ऊंचाई पे हैं।
The sensors that are updating at this point are providing confirmation of the safety of the landing site.
As expected, the retargeting is going on and this is a very good signature for the lander. अभी आप ये देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर की ऊंचाई लगभग 65 मीटर के आसपास बची हुई है।
Currently, only 2 engines are now being fired, and we are nearly at zero velocity, vertical and horizontal. We were hovering, and now we are approaching the moon's surface.
धीरे धीरे लैंडर की वेगमान को कम किया जा रहा है और हम अब लगभग 50 मीटर से भी कम आ चुके हैं।
We can see the Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, who is here to encourage us, and he is critically looking at the visuals.
जी हाँ, आप अपने स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि हम लैंडर मॉड्यूल
People are applauding. Let
Lander
us all
module
wait to hear from the Secretary Department of Space and Chairman ISRO, Shri S. Somnath.
लैंडर मॉड्यूल पूरी तरह से सेफली और सॉफ्टली चंद्रमा के सतह पे लैंड हो चुका है। ये हम लोगों के लिए बहुत ही गर्व की बात है। हिंदी में एक कहावत है कि चंदा मामा दूर के, लेकिन अब हम ये कह सकते हैं कि चंदा मामा अपने घर के।
बहुत ही उम्दा. The hard work of the entire ISRO community has come to fruition.
आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी, नमस्कार. Sir, we have achieved soft landing on the moon. India is on the moon. Sir, I request our Honorable Prime Minister to address us and bless us. Thank you, sir.
मेरे प्यारे परिवारजनों, जब हम अपनी आंखों के सामने ऐसा इतिहास बनते हुए देखते हैं तो जीवन धन्य हो जाता है। ऐसी ऐतिहासिक घटनाएं राष्ट्र जीवन की चिरंजीव चेतना बन जाती है। ये पल अविस्मरणीय है। ये क्षण अभूतपूर्व है। ये क्षण विकसित भारत के शंखनाद का है। ये क्षण नए भारत के जयघोष का है। ये क्षण मुश्किलों के महासागर को पार करने का है। ये क्षण जीत के चंद्र पथ पर चलने का है। नई ऊर्जा, नया विश्वास, नई चेतना का है। ये क्षण भारत के उदयमान भाग्य के आह्वान का है। अमृत काल की प्रथम प्रभा में सफलता की ये अमृत वर्षा हुई है। हमने धरती पर संकल्प लिया और चांद पर उसे साकार किया। और हमारे वैज्ञानिक साथियों ने भी कहा, इंडिया इज नाउ ऑन द मून। आज हम अंतरिक्ष में नए भारत की नई उड़ान के साक्षी बने हैं। साथियों, मैं इस समय ब्रिक्स समिट में हिस्सा लेने के लिए दक्षिण अफ्रीका में हूं, लेकिन हर देशवासी की तरह मेरा मन चंद्रयान महाअभियान पर भी लगा हुआ था। नया इतिहास बनते ही हर भारतीय जश्न में डूब गया है। हर घर में उत्सव शुरू हो गया है। हृदय से मैं भी अपने देशवासियों के साथ, अपने परिवारजनों के साथ इस उमंग और उल्लास से जुड़ा हुआ हूं। मैं टीम चंद्रयान को, इसरो को और देश के सभी वैज्ञानिकों को जी जान से बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं, जिन्होंने इस पल के लिए वर्षों तक इतना परिश्रम किया है। उत्साह, उमंग, आनंद और भावुकता से भरे इस अद्भुत पल के लिए मैं 140 करोड़ देशवासियों को भी कोटि कोटि बधाइयां देता हूं। मेरे परिवारजनों, हमारे वैज्ञानिकों के परिश्रम और प्रतिभा से भारत चंद्रमा के उस दक्षिणी ध्रुव पर पहुंचा है जहां आज तक दुनिया का कोई भी देश नहीं पहुंच सका। अब आज के बाद से चांद से जुड़े मिथक बदल जाएंगे, कथानक भी बदल जाएंगे और नई पीढ़ी के लिए कहावतें भी बदल जाएगी। भारत में तो हम सभी लोग धरती को मां कहते हैं और चांद को मामा बुलाते हैं। कभी कहा जाता था, चंदा मामा बहुत दूर के हैं। चंदा मामा बहुत दूर के हैं। अब एक दिन वो भी आएगा जब बच्चे कहा करेंगे, चंदा मामा बस एक टूर के हैं। फ्रेंड्स, on this joyous occasion, I would like to address all the people of the world, the people of every country and region. India's successful moon mission is not just India's alone. This is a year in which the world is witnessing India's G20 presidency. Our approach of one earth, one family, one future is resonating across the globe. This human-centric approach that we present and that we represent has been welcomed universally. Our moon mission is also based on the same human-centric approach. Therefore, this success belongs to all of humanity, and it will help moon missions by other countries in the future. I am confident that all countries in the world, including those from the global south, are capable of achieving such feats. We can all aspire for the moon and beyond. मेरे परिवारजनों, चंद्रयान महाअभियान की ये उपलब्धि भारत की उड़ान को चंद्रमा की कक्षाओं से आगे जाएगी। हम हमारे सौर मंडल की सीमाओं का सामर्थ्य परखेंगे और मानव के लिए ब्रह्मांड की अनेक संभावनाओं को साकार करने के लिए भी जरूर काम करेंगे। हमने भविष्य के लिए कई बड़े और महत्वाकांक्षी लक्ष्य तय किए हैं। जल्द ही सूर्य के विस्तृत अध्ययन के लिए इसरो आदित्य L1 मिशन लॉन्च करने जा रहा है। इसके बाद शुक्र भी इसरो के लक्ष्यों में से एक है। गगनयान के जरिए देश अपने पहले ह्यूमन स्पेस फ्लाइट मिशन के लिए भी पूरी तैयारी के साथ जुटा है। भारत बार बार ये साबित कर रहा है कि स्काई इज नॉट द लिमिट। साथियों, साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी देश के उज्जवल भविष्य का आधार है। इसलिए आज के इस दिन को देश हमेशा हमेशा के लिए याद रखेगा। यह दिन हम सभी को एक उज्जवल भविष्य की ओर बढ़ने के लिए प्रेरित करेगा। ये दिन हमें अपने संकल्पों की सिद्धि का रास्ता दिखाएगा। ये दिन इस बात का प्रतीक है कि हार से सबक लेकर जीत कैसे हासिल की जाती है। एक बार फिर देश के सभी वैज्ञानिकों को बहुत बहुत बधाई और भविष्य के मिशन के लिए ढेरों शुभकामनाएं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
For being part of our journey to this success, and let me take this opportunity to thank the people behind this mission. The project director of Chandrayan-3, he is here. Vikram, congratulations to you. The associate project director, Kalpana, and the mission operations director, Srikanth. And the satellite was built at your house satellite center, Shankaran, the director. Thank you, sir. Hello.
A great moment of happiness on behalf of team. It gives me immense satisfaction on achieving this goal as a project director of this mission. The entire mission operations right from launch till landing happened flawlessly as per the timeline, and we became the 4th country to land to demonstrate the soft landing onto the moon surface, and we became the first country to go to near to the south pole of the moon. I take this opportunity to thank navigation, guidance and control team, propulsion team, sensors team and all the mainframe subsystems team who have brought success to this mission. I also take the opportunity to thank the Critical Operations Review Committee for thoroughly reviewing the mission operations right from launch till this date. The target was on spot because of the review process. I also thank the ISRO higher management, right from Chairman ISRO, Director URSC and all the center directors and higher ISRO officials. And finally, my thanks to the Chandrayan-3 project executives spread across the ISRO centers. Thank you.
Mission Director Srikanth.
It gives me an immense pleasure to be part of Chandrayan-3 and acting as Mission Director. I would like to thank each and every team member who has supported in carrying out all the mission operations flawlessly. And I would like to thank my senior management, Chairman ISRO, Director URSC, my senior colleagues and my team members for carrying out and supporting all the things carrying out in a proper way. Thank you very much.
Associate Project Director Kalpana.
Good evening to all. This will remain the most memorable and the happiest moment for all of us, for our team Chandrayan-3. We have achieved We have achieved our goal flawlessly. From the day we started rebuilding our spacecraft after Chandrayaan-2 experience, it has been breathe in, breathe out Chandrayaan-3 for our team. And starting from the reconfiguration to all the special tests and the simulations we have conducted meticulously. And this has been possible only because of our immense effort from our Chandrayaan-3 team. And of course, with the guidance from our chairman ISRO, our directors, and all our experts. With all this, it has been possible. Thank you, one and all. Thank you for all the minutest help which has been provided from all the areas of departments. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Chandrayaan-3 is a result of the work done by thousands of scientists, engineers, our staff, and industries, and support team across ISRO and other places, other institutions. And Shankaran has been the lead of the center which integrated all of these efforts in the last so many years. So I request him to speak on behalf of all of you.
Thank you very much for the affection that has been displayed today now. Today, we have achieved what we set out to achieve in 2019. It was delayed by about 4 years, but we have done it. When Chandrayaan-3 was launched, after the separation of the spacecraft from launch vehicle, I said, I will speak the rest of the things after the soft landing. So here I will take a couple of minutes to tell the tremendous amount of effort that has been put in by the entire project team. When I say project team, it is not just only the project director and associate project director. Of course, they are the face of the project. They have been living, sleeping, eating, breathing Chandrayaan for the last 4 years. They have been supported by such a large number of people, particularly in the navigation, guidance and control area, propulsion system. This area, the amount of effort that has been put by people, the number of simulations that have been done, the number of reviews they have gone through, the amount of criticism they faced and overcome that. It is, as a person who has been watching this for the last 4 years along with them, my heart goes out for them. The amount of effort is tremendous. That is what ISRO is all about. That is what our organization has taught us to do. Now today, this success has put us even more higher responsibility, as the Honorable Prime Minister was telling, because we have set the bar now so high. Nothing less spectacular than this is going to be inspiring for any of us in the future. So as the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned, we will be now looking at putting the man in space, putting a spacecraft around Venus and landing a craft in Mars. Work on all these activities are going on for a few years. And this success today will inspire us and will spur us to take those efforts even more strongly so that we will make our country proud again and again and again. Thank you very much for every one of you who have directly or indirectly participated in this mission, encouraged us, intentionally or unintentionally helped us in all for every one of you. A big thank you, because even a casual remark, an unintended point can help a person who is striving to reach a goal. The person who is making that remark may not have meant it that way, but sometimes it can ignite that's why I said that even unintended help is very, very, very welcome, and we are very, very thankful for that. Thank you, Team ISRO, for supporting all of us. The amount of affection we received when this mission came into this final stage, the number of people who gave us confidence that nothing can go wrong, and this is going to be successful. In fact, I was not that much confident because we have seen a couple of times issues, because I know very well as a person who has been doing in this domain for 36 years, I know there are thousands of things. Any of that can anytime go wrong and derail. But so many of the people, because that I only see as the reflection of the effort we have put, that people are so happy to see this effort and they want us to succeed. It is not that they know that we are going to succeed. The people want us to succeed. So thank you very much for everyone for your love and affection. We will continue to do our best and make our flag fly, ISRO's as well as India's flag fly high. Thank you very much.
Honorable Prime Minister called me and conveyed his greetings to each one of you and your family for the wonderful work you did in ISRO. So thanks are to him for the support that he is giving to us for missions like Chandrayan-3 and the missions that are in the offing. I think that's a great word of comfort that we are receiving for pursuing the inspirational work that we are doing for the nation. I want to tell you, and I want to thank you also for each and everyone who prayed with us in the last many days, who wanted this success to happen in ISRO. I thank all those people all around the country and maybe beyond the country for their blessings and wishes and affection that he has given to each one of us for doing this work for the last so many years. I want to specifically thank some senior people who have been standing with us, especially the name of Kiran Kumar sir and Mr. Kamalakar, Sri Koteshwar Rao. They have been helping so much. They were part of the team to help them to get the confidence and get the reviews done to ensure that nothing goes with any mistakes. And of course, this is not the work of us alone. This is a work of a generation of ISRO leadership and ISRO scientists. And this is a journey we started in Chandrayan-1, continued in Chandrayan-2, and Chandrayan-2 craft is still working and doing a lot of communication work with us. And all the team that contributed to building Chandrayan-1 and Chandrayan-2 should be remembered and thanked while we celebrate Chandrayan-3. And this is an incremental progress and definitely a great, huge one it is. And thank you so much for all the support and work that you have done. Thank you.
So as you can see, Preeti, there's jubilance, there's joy at Team ISRO, and rightly so, because the efforts of thousands of scientists who've been involved in the Chandrayaan mission has borne fruit. India has become the 4th country in the world to land on the surface of the moon, and only the first country, and this is very, very historic for us, because we become the first country to land closer to the south pole of the moon, something that no other country has achieved so far. We are privileged, we are part of this historic moment that we are witnessing today. Thousands of scientists have been working very, very hard to make this mission a success, and today we are seeing...
हम देख भी रहे हैं स्क्रीन पर कि जो बधाइयों का और शुभकामनाओं का दौर है वो अब शुरू हो गया है। और उपराष्ट्रपति जगदीप धनखड़ ने इसरो को, देशवासियों को चंद्रयान की सफलता के लिए, जो सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग जिसका इंतज़ार आज पूरा देश कर रहा था, पूरी दुनिया कर रही थी, उसके लिए शुभकामनाएं दी हैं। हर जगह से शुभकामनाओं का दौर जारी है। जैसा टीना ने भी बताया, दक्षिणी ध्रुव पर उतरने वाला पहला देश भारत बन चुका है और उत्साह और उल्लास सिर्फ इसरो सेंटर के अंदर ही नहीं बल्कि देश के कोने कोने में अब नजर आ रहा है और शुभकामनाओं का दौर अब शुरू हो गया है।
As you heard the Prime Minister, this is historic in many ways for India because it's a sign that it is something that new India has achieved. He went on to say, and if you heard his address, he said, we dream on Earth and we make sure that we fulfill it on the moon. So India literally is now on the moon, something which is going to help not just scientists in India, but globally. For space enthusiasts, for the entire scientific community, this is a historic achievement. Now it leads the way for more experiments, for more studies on about the surface of the moon and particularly about the lunar pole of the south pole of the moon.
बिल्कुल। और स्क्रीन पर हम देख पा रहे हैं उपराष्ट्रपति जगदीप धनखड़ ने इस पल के बाद, इस गौरव भरे पल के बाद ट्वीट किया है और बोला है, हिस्टोरिक मोमेंट फॉर इंडिया, अ जायंट लीप इन स्पेस एक्सप्लोरेशन। अपनी तरफ से बधाई का जो दौर है वो शुरू हो गया है और ट्वीट के जरिए, तमाम सोशल मीडिया पर मैसेजेस के जरिए इसरो को, देशवासियों को बधाई दी जा रही है। और इस सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग के बाद अब तमाम आयाम हैं जो भारत के लिए, दुनिया के लिए खुलने वाले हैं। क्या कुछ होगा जो अब हमें हासिल होगा? क्यों इतना क्रूशियल माना जा रहा था चांद के दक्षिणी ध्रुव पर सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग को, और इस ऐतिहासिक पल के बाद अब क्या कुछ बदलेगा, इस पर सबकी नजरें होंगी। आखिरी के जो 17 मिनट शुरू हुए, जिन्हें दहशत भरे पल करार दिया गया, उनके बाद अब हर देशवासी के लिए खुशी का पल, सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग चांद के दक्षिणी ध्रुव पर सफलतापूर्वक पूरी कर ली गई है। चंद्रयान-3 का सबसे मुश्किल भरा पल पार हो चुका है और हर देशवासी के लिए गौरव का पल।
Absolutely. And while congratulating the scientists on the success of the Chandrayan-3 mission, the Prime Minister also spoke about the upcoming solar mission of India, the Aditya L1, which is set to be launched in a few days from now. He's also extended his best wishes to ISRO for the upcoming Aditya L1 mission. Today's mission, Preeti, is historic in several ways. As we've been reiterating, India has become only the 4th country. The landing procedure, even though our scientists made it look extremely simple and seamless, it's not as simple as it looks to be. We were speaking ahead of the launch with 2 of the scientists who have been involved with several critical missions undertaken by ISRO over the years, and they did talk to us at length about the small details that need to be taken care of. There are thousands of things which have to work together in coordination. One thing goes wrong and the mission becomes unsuccessful. But what has worked in favor of ISRO, and something that ISRO chairman Dr. S. Somnath also pointed out, is that despite Chandrayaan-2 becoming a failure, there are lessons that we learned and we made sure that we improvise on them, and that's how Chandrayaan-3 today has become a huge success.
बिल्कुल, तो हर एक बारीकी पर ध्यान दिया गया, बैकअप प्लान भी तैयार करके रखे गए और किसी भी तरह की मानवीय भूल की कोई आशंका इस बार चंद्रयान-3 के लिए नहीं छोड़ी गई। और इसकी सफलता के बाद अब और सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग के बाद बहुत कुछ आगे हमें चांद के बारे में जानकारियां हासिल होंगी, जिसके बाद बहुत से आयाम सिर्फ चांद को लेकर ही नहीं बल्कि भारत के जो आगे स्पेस मिशन हैं उन्हें लेकर भी जानकारियां हासिल होंगी और ये और मजबूत बनेंगे। ये इस बात को लेकर भी तमाम उत्सुकता है कि आखिर भारत ने उपलब्धि हासिल कैसे की। अगर देखें तो 2019 में चंद्रयान-2 मिशन से बहुत सारे सबक लिए गए और इस बात की कोई गुंजाइश नहीं छोड़ी गई कि चंद्रयान-3 मिशन में किसी भी तरह की कोई आशंका, कोई त्रुटि की संभावना बाकी रह जाए। चंद्रयान-3 से पहले 22 जुलाई 2019 को चंद्रयान-2 जब लॉन्च किया गया था तो दक्षिणी ध्रुव पर सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग की कोशिश करने वाला किसी भी देश का ये पहला अंतरिक्ष मिशन था। और अब दक्षिणी ध्रुव पर सॉफ्ट लैंड करने वाले हम दुनिया के पहले देश बन चुके हैं।
And it opens avenues for the scientific community to now study the south pole of the moon, which is called the uncharted territory of the moon, with the Earth's only natural satellite. And it is going to now lead the way for a lot of scientific study about this part of the moon, something that India should be extremely proud of, because even though not in its first attempt, this success has come belated, but it has come with a bang. Today's date, in fact, 23rd of August 2023, will go down in the history of space science. India becomes the first country to soft land successfully on the south pole of the lunar surface. We will also be speaking to scientists who've been involved with the Chandrayan-1, 2 and 3 missions in the past, and they will be telling us about the intricacies involved. Now that we have landed, the job of the lander ends and the rover begins. So what all experiments will the rover conduct in the days to come? For how many days will the rover be active? What are the kind of pictures, the visuals that the scientific community can expect from this part of the moon? Because we have landed very close to the south pole of the moon. So it opens avenues, as we said, for further experiments, for further studies, for the entire global scientific community.
बिल्कुल। और अगर उन कदमों की बात करें, उन सुधारों की बात करें जो चंद्रयान-3 यानी चंद्रयान-3 मिशन में एक तरह से आगे बढ़ाए गए, जो तमाम सबक थे चंद्रयान-2 से लेकर उन्हें सुधारा गया, तो इसमें इसरो के वैज्ञानिकों ने चंद्रयान-2 मिशन से काफ़ी कुछ सीखा। और जैसा इसरो प्रमुख एस सोमनाथ ने बताया भी कि 2019 का जो मिशन चंद्रयान-2 था वो आंशिक सफल था, लेकिन इससे मिले जो अनुभव थे वो इसरो पर लैंडर उतारने के लिए नए जो कोशिशें की गई उसमें काफ़ी उपयोगी साबित हुए। और इस तरह चंद्रयान-3 में तमाम बदलाव किए गए और इन बदलाव का नतीजा ये रहा कि दक्षिणी ध्रुव पर सफल सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग करने वाला भारत पहला देश बन गया है। और तमाम जो नए उपकरण थे वो चंद्रयान-3 में लगाए गए और अब चांद पर भारत की धमक सुनाई दे रही है, दिखाई दे रही है। चंद्रयान-3 को सफलता को लेकर सिर्फ देश ही नहीं बल्कि दुनिया को तमाम उम्मीदें थी, बड़ी उम्मीदें थी। और
You're right, Preeti, and congratulatory messages have also been pouring in from global leaders. There are countries congratulating India for this historic feat. And if I am to quote Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he went on to say that now for India, after the success of the Chandrayan-3 mission, we can say sky is not the limit for Indians. For 1.4 billion Indians, sky is clearly not the limit. Science and technology are going to determine the future of a developed India, something on whose journey we've already embarked upon. We're being joined by Ms. BP Dakshayani, former Group Director, Flight Dynamics and Space Navigation Groups, ISRO. Ms. BP Dakshayani, pleasure to have you with us on Sansad TV on this special broadcast. Before we begin talking to you, huge congratulations on this historic feat that India has achieved today by successfully soft landing on that part of the moon that the world today is still aspiring for. India becomes the first country to successfully soft land on the south pole of the moon. Tell us about, ma'am, tell us about, because you've been associated with the Chandrayan-2 mission and you were very, very closely associated with the navigation department. Tell us about how different was Chandrayan-3, the kind of lessons that we learned. Obviously, we improvised on our systems a lot, and that is something that has helped us achieve this spectacular success that we are talking about.
Yeah, definitely, madam. Chandrayaan-2 also, it has that whatever the landed descent phase was there, it has come up to that nearly 1.8 kilometer. Afterwards, only we lost the control. But a thorough review has been done and thorough analysis has been done from the designer level to the highest level, where ISRO chairman and management will be involved. And there are many reviews outside the ISRO, experts are called, and they all have reviewed. So major modifications, some of them either in hardware or software, has been done. To name a few, earlier in Chandrayaan-2 we had 5 engine thrusters. Now for Chandrayaan-3 we have only 4 thrusters, and the landing area was made wider, like bigger, from 500 meter by 500 meter to 4 by 2.4 kilometer. And there was a decision with LSDAC to take a decision at 150 meter after hovering whether it has to land at the same place or slightly move away from that and land, that you might have seen, because it takes the image very nearby, which will help to identify the boulders with which it is not possible for lander to land. And also lot of test simulations have been carried out, and like lander cold test, lander hot test. In lander cold test, they have done all sensor performance test using a prototype model on a processor, all the navigation softwares, and even the sensors like lander position detection camera, altimeter, they are all put. And they are that helicopter was flown over a region, Challakere, near Chitradurga, which is situated in Karnataka, where the craters are simulated similar to whatever was there on Chandrayan. And that way the sensors and the associated software's performance has been validated. And even there was a hot test that was done at SDSC Sriharikota, where it was a prototype model, a scale down model was used, in which thrusters were also there, and also all the sensors, all the hardwares, everything was there. And it was a the test was in a closed loop manner. That means whenever the thruster was fired, and that data has gone to the navigation software, and the navigation software has determined the position and velocity of the whatever the prototype model was there, and it has given the information further to guidance, and the guidance algorithm, control algorithm. Again, everything is tested, because guidance will give, taking the input from navigation, guidance will give an information to the controls where, in which path you have to move and how much is the thruster you have to give. So that information is used by the controls, and controls will actuate these thrusters to fire further. It was done in a closed loop manner. And you know that this test was done using a crane in which the prototype model has been hanged, and it was balanced by a counterweight, and this test was done. So all this, and not only that, so many software simulations also have been carried out. And we were whatever the lander leg, it has made, the test was done by dropping the lander from an height, and also the specification limit for the lander, like whatever the horizontal velocity of 2 meters per second it can withstand. Later on, it may in Chandrayan-3, it has been made to 3 meters per second. That means 50% improvement, right?
Right.
And also the vertical, that was in the vertical velocity also, the limits were increased, and also the slope with which the lander can land also was tested in the lander drop test. All these things have been done to improve the whatever we failed in Chandrayaan-2. We wanted our management, our chairman, they all, and project team, everybody wanted it to be a success. And thousands of people have worked, and they have put in hard effort, day and night they have worked and made it a
That's
success.
something that we are extremely proud of, Ma'am Dakshayani, the fact that ISRO has proven not once but time and again that failures do not deter Team ISRO. What we saw during Chandrayaan-2 in 2019 is something that we have learned massively from. The navigation algorithm that you spoke about is extremely critical for soft landing. And we made sure that we worked upon all those shortcomings to ensure that this time the soft landing happens. And we are extremely proud to say that India is now on the moon, all thanks to scientists like you. The ISRO chairman, Dr. Somnath, did acknowledge the contribution of all those scientists, which include you, who've been part of the Chandrayaan 1, 2, and 3 missions. And ultimately, it is the hard work, the perseverance of scientists like you who've made Chandrayaan-3 mission a huge success, something that every Indian today must be immensely proud of.
Yeah, madam, it is not just me alone. Thousands of people, they work, and usually in ISRO, people have the passion for their work. And when it works, they will feel very happy, because today you can't imagine how much people are feeling happy after it has successfully landed.
दक्षानी मैम, थोड़ा सा अब हम आगे बढ़ें और इस बात को एक बार फिर समझने की कोशिश करते हैं कि चंद्रयान-3 जो मिशन है वो क्यों है। हम ये जानते हैं कि चंद्रयान-3 मिशन विल सीमेंट इंडिया स्टैंडिंग एज अ स्पेस पावर, जाहिर तौर पर, बट व्हाट इंडिया होप्स टू अचीव विद द चंद्रयान-3 मिशन? क्या कुछ है जो अब आगे हमें हासिल होने वाला है और कैसे वो उन चीज़ों से अलग होगा जो चंद्र के बारे में या कहें मून के बारे में अब तक हमें पता है?
Yeah, actually, this landing process itself is very, very complex. That itself is a big achievement for ISRO, okay, and for our country also. That proves that India is on par with other developed nations, wherein they spend lot of money when compared to us for these missions. Okay, that is the first thing. And the second thing is there are payloads on the lander as well as on the rover. There are 4 payloads on the lander. One is the charge payload that will analyze the surface temperature. It will do the chest means Chandrayaan surface temperature experiment. It will find out the temperature, whatever is there on the lunar surface, which will result in the ionization that it will study. And there is another payload called Ramba, that radio anatomy of moon-bound analyzer it is. That will tell what all other constituents are there in the soil, that it will analyze. And one more payload is there that is called ILSA, that is an instrument for lunar seismic activity, that will measure any seismic activity which is happening on the on the lunar surface. Seismic activity means it is like an earthquake. We will experience earthquake at some parts of Earth, right? Similarly,
अगले 14 दिन में हमारे ये रोवर है ना, विक्रम लैंडर, विक्रम लैंडर की हेल्थ कंडीशंस हमको चेक करना है. इसके बाद द प्रज्ञान रोवर विल कम आउट. प्रज्ञान रोवर will come out in next maybe few hours. Sometimes it may take one day as well, depending upon the conditions. Then each of the instruments will be deployed. There are many instruments. There is an instrument called REMBA, which will be deploying to study the geophysical parameters of the regolith. Then there is an ILSA, which will measure the seismic activity. Then there is, REMBA is going to measure the atmosphere, the charged atmosphere of the moon. And there is a chaste, which is going to pierce on the surface of the moon and then measure the thermophysical properties of the regolith. Then we have a ILSA payload, which will be lowered from the moon craft, that is Vikram. It will be lowered using some ropes. It will touch the surface and measure the seismic activity on the moon. And once the Pragyan rover comes out, there will be 2 important experiments, and both of them are linked with the elemental composition and chemical composition of the surface of the moon. The first experiment will be using a laser beam. We will send a laser beam from the rover on the material. It will fuse it, and then it will generate some spectroscopic information which will identify elements there. Another experiment is related to an alpha particle which will be emitted by the radioactive material sitting there, and that will generate certain X-ray fluorescence on the surface, and that will be measured to find out the chemical composition. So these are the main experiments that are on board Chandrayaan-3 now. Shall I answer in English? Okay, so see, the most difficult part of the mission is to launch itself. See, the GSLV Mark 3, you should not forget that GSLV Mark 3, LVM3 has done the job of putting it in the right orbit very first time. It went to 36,500 kilometers. From that, we did all the up to translunar injection. It worked very well, and captured on the moon. So the first critical event is the launch. The second critical event is called the landing and capturing on the moon. If you miss it by your calculation, then it's gone. We cannot retrieve it, and there is no mission. So this is the second critical mission. The third critical thing is called this separation of the lander and the orbiter, which happened in the appropriate time. This is again after so many days of spending in orbit, the mechanism has to work without any problem. So it worked very well. And the last critical moment is, of course, that you have watched along with us. That's it. You. Okay, success of Chandrayan-3 meaning for the future exploration. I think it's all clear to you. I don't have to tell. See, when it is such a tough journey for going to moon and landing, soft landing, which is very difficult for any nation to achieve today, even with the advancement of technology, and we achieving it in just two missions. The first mission had a narrow miss, and now we achieved it so perfectly. It gives confidence to configure missions to not only going to moon, going to Mars, sometimes land on the Mars, maybe in the future going to Venus and other planets, and also sometimes go beyond asteroids and others. We should think about it. I think you should all support us to plan such missions with a very, very cost-effective mission. Nobody in the world can ever do like this what we do, and nobody will be able to succeed maybe in the minimum most attempts. So I request each one of your support, encouragement. The whole of the nation should be behind us to do this. मुश्किल था. So we went through lot of pain, a lot of agony. I must tell you, the people behind Chandrayan-2 are still there. They are part of the Chandrayan-3 team. I think none of them you know today, but the project director of the Chandrayan-2 is a senior reviewer of Chandrayan-3, and most of the people who are in Chandrayan-2 are with us, helping us to do the Chandrayan-3. So they are part of this. And they have gone through such an agony of understanding what went wrong. It went about almost a year of thrashing them to find out and looking at the data so much. And the whole of this team, I don't think they would have slept very well in the last so many years. I think the credit goes to those people who have spent enough amount of time, but equal amount of time has been spent by our seniors, some of the retired colleagues who sat with them to find out how it can be improved this time. So my salutations to all such people those are unsung heroes today. They are not in the seat, but my congratulations to all such people.
Sir, Rajiv Mishra from Rajasthan Patrika. Sir, here. Hello, sir.
See, Honorable Prime Minister was kind enough to call me, and he connected my name to the Chandrayaan mission. Of course, I am very proud of that. And he conveyed his greetings to all the scientists in ISRO for the wonderful work they did. Naturally, all of us are proud of that, as I mentioned earlier. And he is very clear about the long-term vision. He wants to make sure that we remain very, very dominant in the area of space exploration and science. It's important for the nation. He is so clear about the Amrit Kal when he was put forth. And we have presented him these ideas and concepts, and I'm very hopeful that he will be supporting us to continue these missions, exploratory missions, science missions, in addition to what is important for societal and commercial needs. Thank you. See, she is asking about the cost effectiveness of this mission. And I think I don't want to explain all the secrets, because if I tell the secret, others will learn and they will become very cost effective. See, ISRO already strong.
Sir.
It will be.
Sir, Rajiv Mishra from Rajasthan Patrika. Rajiv Mishra, sir, hello. Sir, Rajiv, sir, sir, here, sir, here.
See, we must also thank, I think there is a question on who all helped us to achieve this mission. And we must thank all those nations which came forth to help us in Chandrayan-3 mission. We had support from USA, the NASA, the support from ESA, as well as our colleagues in other scientific organizations in this country. Especially the support came in form of ground stations, the tracking support. You know, from India alone, you cannot see the Chandrayan-3 all the time. We need other ground stations. One in Australia helped us in Canberra, one in New Narsia helped us, one in UK helped us, and another in NASA's control. And all these ground stations were beaming the data to us, and we were able to get a lot of information, real-time information, and command uplink. Everything happened because of this. The second help came from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory of NASA, JPL, and they were also estimating the position of the Chandrayan-3 very accurately using their technology and passing on the information to us, which gave us confidence to work on the mission design, trajectory design of the final phase of the mission. So thanks to all of them for their support.
तो इसरो प्रमुख है.
So there you heard the chairman of ISRO, Dr. S. Somnath, addressing a press conference, answering questions posed to him by media personnel about the success of Chandrayaan, the cost effectiveness of this mission that India has now been successful in, becoming only the first country to land on the south pole of the moon. We will continue to discuss this success story and all other aspects of what remains in the Chandrayaan-3 mission, what really now the rover is expected to do, and how it helps the global scientific community in carrying out further scientific studies. For this, I am joined by Ms. BP Dakshayani. She continues to stay with us on the telecast. And we'll also be joined by Mr. Sudhindra Bindagi, former Group Director, Thermal System Group, UR Rao Satellite Center, ISRO. He was responsible for the thermal control system of Chandrayaan-3, and he retired halfway through the mission. That is, he retired in July after the launch of the Chandrayaan-3. So he will also be joining us in just a short while from now. We will continue to discuss with Ms. Dakshayani at the moment. Ms. Dakshayani, we were talking about, the various aspects of Chandrayaan-3 mission. Right since its launch from the 14th of July, everything happened timely and in a seamless manner. But the fact that there were challenges involved, now the focus shifts from the lander to the rover. Tell us about what all experiments the rover is supposed to do, and what is the significance of the 14-day period?
Yeah, rover has got two payloads. One is called LIPS, laser-induced breakdown spectrometer, and APXX. That is alpha particle X-ray spectrometer. Both are spectrometer. In the LIPS, what it does, lower on the surface, when it examines through the spectrometer, it will give.
और सबको मेरी तरफ से अभिनंदन कह दीजिए, और हो सके उतना जल्दी मैं आप सबको रूबरू में भी बधाई दूंगा. बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं और बहुत बहुत बधाई.
प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी ने अभी इसरो के वैज्ञानिकों को फोन करके भी बधाई दी और हमने देखा कि किस तरह से प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी, जो कि ब्रिक्स समिट के लिए इस समय दक्षिण अफ्रीका में है, वो ऑनलाइन वर्चुअली जुड़े रहे इसरो सेंटर में. हमने देखा उन्होंने तमाम जो वैज्ञानिक हैं उन्हें बधाई दी. सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग, जिसे काफ़ी मुश्किल और काफ़ी क्रूशल समझा जा रहा था, चंद्रयान-3 मिशन का सबसे क्रूशल पार्ट वो अब पूरा हो गया है और साउथ पोल पर सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग करने वाला भारत दुनिया में पहला देश बन गया है. और अब फोन पर प्रधानमंत्री ने कुछ ही पलों पहले हमने देखा तमाम वैज्ञानिकों को एक बार फिर शुभकामनाएं और बधाई दी है. दक्षानी मैम, आप थोड़ा सा हमें समझा रही थी कि अब जो 14 दिन का वक्त होगा वो किन मायनों में अहम रहने वाला है, थोड़ा समझाइए हमें.
You mean 14 days?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, actually this moon's rotation period is around 27.2 days and its revolution period also 27.2 days. That means rotation period means moon rotates on its own axis. It will take nearly 27.2 and normally it is rounded off and we say 28 days. Whereas in the Earth, you must be knowing it will happen in 24 hours. There it is 28 days. So the day and night mainly happens because of this rotation only. And like day and night happens in Earth, the same way day and night happens on the moon. But only difference is there 14 days day and 14 days night. That happens every 28 days. You might have heard about full moon and new moon, no? It is like that. So that is, and we have made our lander and rover to sustain for 14 days. 14 days means like Earth days. Whatever the 24 hours per day we say, no? Like that, it has to stay on the lunar surface and it has to conduct the experiments. Okay, that is the thing. And after that, what happens? Once the night, it comes to the night portion, right, night region, this lander, it will not be able to sustain with its battery, because whenever there is a night on the satellite, that means there is no power it can generate with the solar panels.
Right.
Lander has to generate the power to maintain for all the subsystems, like what we eat, no food, like that power system is required to give the energy to all the subsystems. That it cannot generate the power once when the lander is in the dark or rover is in the dark period. Okay. And another thing is, I think Bindagi sir can explain much better than me. This whatever the Chandrayan temperature variation is very large. When it is in the darker period, the temperature may go below 100 degrees centigrade, and when the temperature is in the light region, it may go more than 100 degree centigrade, plus 100. Here it is below 100 degree centigrade. Okay, minus level. So whatever the thermal insulation we have built in on the satellite, it may not
Like
be
to
able to
understand from you.
withstand this much range of temperature.
We will try and discuss all of these aspects with Mr. Sudhindra as and when he joins us. But another thing that we would like to understand from you, we've seen images coming in right since the launch began, and Chandrayan-3 entered, the lander to be precise, entered the lunar orbit. There were pictures of the moon coming in, and now we'll of course have more pictures coming in. What appears from these images is there are lots of craters on the moon, something that the rover will have to be mindful of. Is that a challenge that in the next 14 days, when the rover is moving around on the moon, conducting experiments, clicking pictures of the south pole of the moon, will this be a big challenge? How will we ensure that the rover does not fall into one of the ditches?
Right now, Madam, rover is capable of moving away from lander only 500 meters. That means half a kilometer. And it moves very slowly, probably 1 centimeter per second. So whatever the region which has been selected earlier itself, it is, rover is capable of moving around that region. So it should not pose any problem to rover. I already told this entire landing region is characterized by earlier OHRC, which is a payload, that is orbiter high resolution camera, which was there in the Chandrayan-2 itself. And many pictures has been taken and they are processed, and finally this area is selected for the landing.
All right, ma'am. थोड़ा सा मैं चाहूँगी मैम, थोड़ा हमें ये भी समझाइए कि वाई इंडियाज मून मिशन इज इम्पोर्टेंट फॉर अदर कंट्रीज टू, क्योंकि अभी हमने देखा न्यूमरस कंट्रीज एंड प्राइवेट कंपनीज आर इन रेस टू सक्सेसफुली लैंड स्पेस क्राफ्ट ऑन द ल्यूनर सर्फेस. रिसेंटली जो रशिया का लूना 25 था वो क्रैश हुआ. तमाम और जो देश हैं वो चाह रहे हैं कि वो अपने मून मिशन को कामयाब बनाएं. तो ऐसे में क्या लग रहा है आपको, व्हाट लेसन कैन दे लर्न फ्रॉम आवर मून मिशन?
You see, madam, we are the first people to land near the polar region, southern region, especially. Those who have landed earlier, the China, Russia, and America, they have landed earlier, but all of them have landed near the equator. So landing at near southern pole is really a challenge, because some of the things were not actually, they are not known to anybody what is there near the polar region of the moon, especially the southern pole, because there are so many craters in which they are completely shadowed for many years. They are completely shadowed. So nobody knows much about the southern region. That is why it is it is a big challenge to land near the southern pole, especially.
For now, let's embark in the success of the successful soft landing that Chandrayan-3 has been able to make on the south pole of the moon, something that is going to lead way for further studies, and it's a huge achievement for the scientific community, for space enthusiasts at large, as we've been reiterating once again. But for the moment, landing on the moon itself is a huge hallmark, Preeti, as we've been talking about. It's a challenging process, as all our scientists earlier who joined us on the panel were telling us about what all that they have to be mindful of. And in the meanwhile, as India has achieved this success, congratulatory messages also continue to pour in. President Draupadi Murmu has also congratulated scientists on this big achievement.
There are days when history is made. Today, with the successful moon landing of the Chandrayan-3 mission, our scientists have not only made history but also remade the idea of geography. It is truly a momentous occasion, the kind of event that happens once in a lifetime, making all Indians proud. I congratulate ISRO and everybody involved in this mission and wish them greater accomplishments ahead. The success of Chandrayaan, I believe, is also a major achievement for the whole of humankind. It shows how India has harnessed its rich traditional knowledge base along with modern science in the service of humanity.
Today you heard the President, Srimati Draupadi Murmu, congratulating the scientists as well as the country for this historic feat. Earlier you heard the Vice President, also the Prime Minister and the Speaker of Lok Sabha extending good wishes to the scientific community and also for the future space exploration programs that they will be undertaking. One of them being the Aditya L1 mission that the ISRO chairman also spoke about. Mr. Sudhindra Bindagi joins us on this telecast. Mr. Bindagi, thank you very much for your time. To begin with, huge congratulations. You were halfway through the mission. You retired on the 31st of July. So you practically launched the mission and then you retired. But of course, you've contributed in several ways to this historic mission that India is extremely proud of. And we are very proud of scientists like you. So huge congratulations, sir, to begin with.
Yeah, thank you very much, madam. It's actually a great day for India and ISRO. So really, we have achieved something which was supposed to be an impossible thing because we are the first country in the world to reach the south pole of the moon. So it is a triumph of science and technology. We have reached the epitome of excellence in technical matters, and we have achieved a great thing today. And today ISRO has landed the India onto the moon. We can say, metaphorically saying, we have put the India on the top of the world. So it is not just the triumph of ISRO, it is a triumph of India, triumph of Indianness, because a whole lot of industries were involved in this realization of Chandrayan-3, and the prayers and the wishes of 140 crore Indians since last few days we might have seen have also mattered a lot in the success of today's mission. So now we can say the sky is not the limit for India. So we can proceed from here, and we can go into an hyperbolic trajectory towards the more and more success and newer goals. Like once we have succeeded in South Pole soft landing successfully, whole lot of opportunities open for us. For example, moving towards the outer planets in the solar system, like it could be Mars or it could be Venus, and also you can move on to asteroid as well. So first thing is send next mission. Next thing will be explore the lunar surface by using the instruments on board Chandrayan-3 and get the valuable data from that. Make use of that data, because there is a speculation that a lot of frozen water is there on the south pole of the moon. So, and also there are a lot of minerals there on the south pole. And another thing is, if we can find water there, it will be very helpful in the future crewed missions to the moon south pole, where astronauts can go and stay there and conduct the experiment and further explore the moon south pole. And also it will be a kind of a springboard for the future outer planet exploration. Moon can be used as a
since you've been associated till as late as 31st July, Mr. Sudhindra, we will be talking to you about the future lunar explorations of India, the other space explorations that we will be undertaking in the days to come. But today the spotlight has been on Chandrayan-3. The lander has successfully landed. Now we'll all be waiting for the rover to roll out on the surface of the moon. Tell us about the kind of experiments and challenges that Pragyan will now have to undertake in the days to come, the 14-day period that it will be roaming around on the surface of the moon.
Yeah, I will tell you. See, now we have successfully landed on the south pole of the moon. But for the time being, what happens is, when we are very close to the surface of the moon, we have fired those retro thrusters on board the Vikram lander. So because of that firing, lot of dust might have rised from the lunar surface and come at a higher level. Now, right now we cannot open and deploy the rover because that dust may go and settle onto some sensitive instruments and which may hinder their performance. So first thing we have to do now is wait for a couple of hours so that the lunar dust settles down. Once the lunar dust is settled down, then the deployment of the rover starts. The deployment of rover is kind of 2-3 processes are there. One is right now the rover is sitting inside the lander. Now there is a door attached to that. The door can be opened. The door can be opened in two deployment mechanisms. One is the secondary deployment. For example, suppose the door is closed like this. First, the secondary deployment will happen. One part of the door will open like this. Then when primary deployment action happens, entire thing will tilt like this and create a ramp and open the door for the rover to come out. So the rover is supposed to roll down on this ramp and come onto the lunar surface. Once these two deployments will happen after a couple of hours, but the rover is also held in the lander with some hold down points. It is not let loose inside the lander. So we have to, first, loosen that and release that. Hold down release mechanism it is called hold down release mechanism. So whatever is holding the rover inside the lander, that will be, first released so that rover becomes free to move. Once the rover becomes free to move, then rover is rolled on this ramp in a controlled manner. There is a thread attached to the rover which is pulling it back. It is not a free fall. So it will go in a controlled manner. And also while going, the rover has got its own solar panels. The solar panels also will be deployed so that sun shines on the solar panel and it can generate its own power. So it will generate its own power in a controlled manner. It will descend from the lander and it will touch the lunar surface. Once it touches the lunar surface, next 14 days, we have a lot of experiment, a lot of science to get out of those experiments. So rover has got 2 instruments. It will do that experiment in the next 14 days.
So will we also need to control how
and one
the
more feature of this
rover rolls down?
Lander is that, yeah.
What is the procedure, Mr. Bindagi, of the rover rolling down? Can that also be controlled, or will that also be in an automatic mode?
No, actually, we can issue the commands from the ground because it is not like, landing sequence, what happened in last 15 minutes of the landing sequence, everything went in ALS mode. Here it did not be that. It can be commanded from the ground. Also, when rover is going down the ramp, the entire sequence can be captured from a camera on the lander. When rover is going down like this, there is a camera sitting at the top of it, the lander, that can capture the entire sequence, and we can see that the rover going down and touching the surface of the moon. So that will happen sometime another 1 or 2 hours from now.
It itself going to be a huge technological feat, Preeti. We'll be waiting for the rover to roll down and leave its imprint literally on the surface of the moon in the form of the Ashoka emblem, in the form of ISRO's symbol. And rightly so, because over the decades, India's Space Odyssey is something that ISRO has immensely put forward in the best manner. As we were discussing, what makes the agency remarkable is that we learned from the failures. For the Chandrayan-2 was something that we missed it marginally, but then we made sure that whatever mistakes, whatever shortcomings were there in Chandrayan-2, we did overcome 4 years later. And today, that historic moment that we're all extremely proud of.
बिल्कुल टीना, तो स्पेस टेक्नोलॉजी के मामले में हम कहाँ खड़े हैं ये कहीं ना कहीं आज पता चला है। और जैसा हमने कहा कि सिर्फ देश की ही नज़रें नहीं बल्कि दुनिया भर की नज़रें इस चंद्रयान-3 मिशन के ऊपर लगी हुई थी। सुधींद्र सर, थोड़ा सा अगर समझें तो नो कंट्री हैज़ एवर अटेम्प्टेड अ सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग ऑन द मून्स लिटिल एक्सप्लोर्ड साउथ पोल। आखिर क्यों ये इतना खास रहा? क्योंकि अगर हम यूएस की बात करें, चाइना की बात करें, यूएसएसआर की बात करें, तो उन्होंने जो मून का इक्वेटोरियल रीजन है वहां पर सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग करवाई, ना कि साउथ पोल पर सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग करवाई गई। वो इसलिए क्योंकि ये रफ टेरेन है और तमाम चीज़ें ज़्यादा डिफिकल्ट हो जाती हैं। Since you have been associated with the design, development, testing and implementation of thermal control systems of satellite missions from ISRO, so I want you to explain for us further how ahead are we from other countries, or how other countries can learn from our mission when it comes to all these parameters, or say when it comes to all these sectors, specialized sectors, I would say, for any space mission.
Yeah, actually, every space mission is an experiment. For example, since we started the moon exploration right from 1960s, since 1960s, if you take the statistics, the moon landing is one of the most difficult thing to do. So if you see the statistics, almost like, 50% of the missions only have succeeded. The success rate is only 50% is one thing. Second thing, if you see last 3-4 years, the Israel, the Japanese, Russians, and India. India's Chandrayan-3 had a setback 4 years back, as we all know. And Luna 25 from Russia was a recent, setback, which it could not successfully land on the south pole of the moon. And also, the Israel and Japanese also have tried in the last couple of years, and they also have not succeeded in this. So what it all points down to is that, even though, Russians are so perfect in harnessing the space technology, but even then they can see such failures. Shows that, world is yet to master the, moon landing technology. There will be, what you call it as, there are known knowns, known unknowns, and there are some unknown unknowns. Sometimes, technologically very complex and challenging missions like moon landing, always you'll be caught unawares by an unknown factor, and you may get stumped. And as far as the South Pole is concerned, as you yourself pointed out, it is a very tough terrain, not like equatorial region where fairly good flat area is available. Whereas South Pole, two things are there. One is the sun never reaches the southern part of the moon, and second thing is, it is full of rocks, valleys, trenches is there. So it becomes all the more difficult to find a very safe landing place and go and land there. This is the reason why, earlier global missions did not attempt to land on the South Pole. But of late, there is an interest in the South Pole because of one or two reasons. One is that, there is a speculation that water is there in the frozen form in the South Pole in the trenches. So trenches are as deep as they say around 6 to 7, 8 kilometers. So that kind of trenches filled with full of water. Now, if we are able to exploit that water, then there will be nothing like that. Future we can take the crewed mission to there, and astronauts can go and land there and use that water split into hydrogen and oxygen. Oxygen can be used for human consumption, and hydrogen can be used as a fuel for the return journey from moon to Earth. So the South Pole exploration is, opening a plethora of opportunities for further exploration at a global level. That's how, all the countries are were very curiously looking at Chandrayan-3 success, which we have done it, and I'm very proud to say that I was a part of that mission as late as just 15 days back. And, I was part of the thermal control system of Chandrayan-3. It gives me an immense pleasure and satisfaction.
And Dakshayani ma'am, before we let you go, one final question from you, because the kind of atmosphere that we saw today in India, even during the Chandrayaan-2, people and youngsters particularly are much more elated, excited about what's happening in the field of space. As a scientist, and particularly as a woman scientist, how do you think the atmosphere at ISRO prevails in order to, propel them, empower them in the future also? Because the Prime Minister says the women empowerment and women-led development is something that is going to take India into becoming a developed nation. Also, the fact that how do we make space sector more attractive, more lucrative for the youth in particular, because the youth today are India's strength. They are going to bring about the transformation that we want to see by 2047.
Yeah, actually, when Prime Minister says women empowerment, it's already there. In ISRO, many women are working, and there will not be any differentiation between men or women in ISRO. All are treated equally, and already many women are in many of the projects, and many women are in the senior management level, and many are project directors. So there is nothing like we have to make the woman to get into this space technology. Already enough women are in the space field.
Right.
And to make the youngsters to learn, these type of missions will definitely create a lot of interest for the younger generation, so that they will take up science and study, and they will take the India to the further heights, because space is one such area in which many unexplored things are there. In one of the reason for going to South Pole also, I will tell you, there are some fossils that may give, if you study that may give the clue about how the solar system has formed. That is the one of the reason also why people are nowadays interested in the going to the South Pole. So the space is no limit actually, and this will create the interest in the students, and definitely many, with this success of ISRO, many students will take up science.
Absolutely,
Especially
we are
space
hopeful
technology.
that with this success, in this success, we are basking in the glory of ISRO, and of course, the immense hard work of the scientists put through several decades is something that has borne fruit, making India the 4th country to land on the moon, only the 1st to land on the south pole of the moon, and as Mr. Sudhindra rightly said, opening newer avenues for scientific exploration, is particularly concerning this part of the moon. So something which is there for the youngsters to be interested in the times to come. There are several space explorations that India is currently working on, about which, of course, we will be talking in the days to come on our channel as well. But for now, it's India's day today. India has landed on the moon. India is now there on the moon. And as Prime Minister Modi rightly said, among the many milestones that we seek to achieve in India's Amrit Kal, this is just the first step of this new India. New India has embarked on its journey to becoming a developed country by 2047. This is just one small step. So with that, we'll have to end this broadcast. Thank you to both our guests for joining us on this telecast and sharing your thoughts with us and our viewers. Huge congratulations to you once again. So,
और इसके बाद आइए टीना, प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी ने इसरो और तमाम वैज्ञानिकों को बधाई देते हुए क्या कहा, आइए सुनते हैं।
मेरे प्यारे परिवारजनों, जब हम अपनी आंखों के सामने ऐसा इतिहास बनते हुए देखते हैं तो जीवन धन्य हो जाता है। ऐसी ऐतिहासिक घटनाएं राष्ट्र जीवन की चिरंजीव चेतना बन जाती है। ये पल अविस्मरणीय है। ये क्षण अभूतपूर्व है। ये क्षण विकसित भारत के शंखनाद का है। ये क्षण नए भारत के जयघोष का है। ये क्षण मुश्किलों के महासागर को पार करने का है। ये क्षण जीत के चंद्र पथ पर चलने का है। ये क्षण 140 करोड़ धड़कनों के सामर्थ्य का है। ये क्षण भारत में नई ऊर्जा, नया विश्वास, नई चेतना का है। ये क्षण भारत के उदयमान भाग्य के आह्वान का है। अमृत काल की प्रथम प्रभा में सफलता की ये अमृत वर्षा हुई है। हमने धरती पर संकल्प लिया और चांद पर उसे साकार किया। और हमारे वैज्ञानिक साथियों ने भी कहा, इंडिया इज नाउ ऑन द मून। आज हम अंतरिक्ष में नए भारत की नई उड़ान के साक्षी बने हैं। साथियों, मैं इस समय ब्रिक्स समिट में हिस्सा लेने के लिए दक्षिण अफ्रीका में हूं, लेकिन हर देशवासी की तरह मेरा मन चंद्रयान महाअभियान पर भी लगा हुआ था। नया इतिहास बनते ही हर भारतीय जश्न में डूब गया है। हर घर में उत्सव शुरू हो गया है। हृदय से मैं भी अपने देशवासियों के साथ, अपने परिवारजनों के साथ इस उमंग और उल्लास से जुड़ा हुआ हूं। मैं टीम चंद्रयान को, इसरो को और देश के सभी वैज्ञानिकों को जी जान से बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं, जिन्होंने इस पल के लिए वर्षों तक इतना परिश्रम किया है। उत्साह, उमंग, आनंद और भावुकता से भरे इस अद्भुत पल के लिए मैं 140 करोड़ देशवासियों को भी कोटि कोटि बधाइयां देता हूं। मेरे परिवारजनों, हमारे वैज्ञानिकों के परिश्रम और प्रतिभा से भारत चंद्रमा के उस दक्षिणी ध्रुव पर पहुंचा है, जहां आज तक दुनिया का कोई भी देश नहीं पहुंच सका। अब आज के बाद से चांद से जुड़े मिथक बदल जाएंगे, कथानक भी बदल जाएंगे और नई पीढ़ी के लिए कहावतें भी बदल जाएगी। भारत में तो हम सभी लोग धरती को मां कहते हैं और चांद को मामा बुलाते हैं। कभी कहा जाता था, चंदा मामा बहुत दूर के हैं। चंदा मामा बहुत दूर के हैं। अब एक दिन वो भी आएगा जब बच्चे कहा करेंगे, चंदा मामा बस एक टूर के हैं। Friends, on this joyous occasion, I would like to address all the people of the world, the people of every country and region. India's successful moon mission is not just India's alone. This is a year in which the world is witnessing India's G20 presidency. Our approach of one earth, one family, one future is resonating across the globe. This human-centric approach that we present and that we represent has been welcomed universally. Our moon mission is also based on the same human-centric approach. Therefore, this success belongs to all of humanity, and it will help moon missions by other countries in the future. I am confident that all countries in the world, including those from the global south, are capable of achieving such feats. We can all aspire for the moon and beyond. मेरे परिवारजनों, चंद्रयान महाअभियान के ये उपलब्धि भारत की उड़ान को चंद्रमा की कक्षाओं से आगे जाएगी। हम हमारे सौर मंडल की सीमाओं का सामर्थ्य परखेंगे और मानव के लिए ब्रह्मांड की अनेक संभावनाओं को साकार करने के लिए भी जरूर काम करेंगे। हमने भविष्य के लिए कई बड़े और महत्वाकांक्षी लक्ष्य तय किए हैं। जल्द ही सूर्य के विस्तृत अध्ययन के लिए इसरो आदित्य L1 मिशन लॉन्च करने जा रहा है। इसके बाद शुक्र भी इसरो के लक्ष्यों में से एक है। गगनयान के जरिए देश अपने पहले ह्यूमन स्पेस फ्लाइट मिशन के लिए भी पूरी तैयारी के साथ जुटा है। भारत बार बार ये साबित कर रहा है कि स्काई इज नॉट द लिमिट। साथियों, साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी देश के उज्जवल भविष्य का आधार है। इसलिए आज के इस दिन को देश हमेशा हमेशा के लिए याद रखेगा। यह दिन हम सभी को एक उज्जवल भविष्य की ओर बढ़ने के लिए प्रेरित करेगा। ये दिन हमें अपने संकल्पों की सिद्धि का रास्ता दिखाएगा। ये दिन इस बात का प्रतीक है कि हार से सबक लेकर जीत कैसे हासिल की जाती है। एक बार फिर देश के सभी वैज्ञानिकों को बहुत बहुत बधाई और भविष्य के मिशन के लिए ढेरों शुभकामनाएं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।